दीप्ति?
हाँ अभी तक दिख नहीं रहा वो लाइव, नहीं तो ये टाइम तक आ जाता है, सबके मैसेजेस भी आ जाते हैं।
कर रहे हैं सर।
अच्छा कर रहे हैं,
हाँ
अच्छा
कर रहे हैं, ठीक
ठीक
है।
है तो।
ऐसी करनी थी बेटी में सैनिटाइज ना शायद उनास को मैसेज हो साउंड
यहाँ भी हो गया क्या भाई?
इधर नीचे तो काला पेट इज गोल जो कुछ नहीं आता ना श्रीमान पूरे चुना वैसे फोटो थोड़ा कर सो बात ना बात कर दो ठीक है। हाँ बात करते हैं एडजस्ट आज कम चुन बार बार कर जो चलती थे इलाज हम 10 मिनट लपटिश
बंद कर दे।
इवनिंग चैंटिंग हिंदी पेज नंबर 14 यो सो स्वा भगवा यो सो भगवा अरहं सम्मा संबुद्धो स्वाखातो ये
बार बार मकर बिल्कुल
स्वाखातो भगवता धम्मो सुपटिपन्नो यस्य भगवतो सावक संघो तमयं भगवन्तं सधम्मं ससङ्घम् इमे हि सकारि यथा अर्हम् आरोपिते अभिपूजयामा साधुनो भन्ति भगवा शुचिरपरिनिभृतोऽपि पश्चिमा जनतानुकम्पमानसा इमे सकारि दुग्धपणाकार भूते पटिगणातु अम्हाकं दीर्घरतं हिताय सुखाय अरहं सम्मा सम्बुद्धो भगवा बुद्धं भगवन्तम् अभिवादेमि स्वाखातो भगवता धम्मो धम्मं नमस्सामि सुपटिपन्नो भगवतो सावक संघो संघं नमामि हन्तमयं बुद्धस्य भगवतो पुब्बभाग नमकारं करोमि नमो तस्स भगवतो अरहतो सम्मा सम्बुद्धस्स नमो तस्स भगवतो अरहतो सम्मा सम्बुद्धस्स नमो तस्स भगवतो अरहतो सम्मा सम्बुद्धस्स हन्तमयं बुद्धानुसतिनयं करोमि तं खोपन भगवन्तम् एवं कल्याणो कीर्तिसद्दो अभुगतो इति पिसो भगवा सम्मा सम्बुद्धो विद्याचरणसम्पन्नो सुगतो लोकविदु अनुत्तरो पुरुषोत्तम सारथि सत्ता देवमसानं बुद्धो भगवाति हन्तमयं बुद्धाभिगीतिं करोमि बुद्धवारहन्तवरता द्विगुणाभियुतो शुद्धाभिज्ञानकरुणा हि समागततो बोधेसियो सुजनतं कमलं वसुरो वन्दामहं तमरण शिरसा जिनेन्दम् बुद्धो यो सब्बपाणिनं शरणं खेममुत्तमं पठमानुसतिष्ठान् वन्दामि तं शिरेणहम् बुद्धस्सस्मि दासी वा बुद्धो मे सामितिस्सरो बुद्धस्सहं नियादि शरीरं जीवितं चिदं वन्दन्तीहं चरिष्यामि बुद्धस्यैव सुबोधितं नत्ति मे शरणम् अन्यत् बुद्धो मे शरणं वरम् एतेन सज्जवज्जेन वड्ढेयं सतु शासने बुद्धं मे वन्दमानाय यं पुण्यं पशुतम् इद सब्बेऽपि अन्तराया मे माहेषुं तस्य तेजसा हन्तमयं धम्मानुसतिनयं करोमि स्वाखातो भगवता धम्मो संदिठिको अकालिको एहि पस्सिको ओपनयिको पच्चत्तं वेदितव्यो विनियोहीति। हन्दमयं धम्माभिगीतिं करोमसे स्वाखाततादिगुणयोगवसेनसेयो यो मग्गपाकपर्यत्तिविमुखभेदो धम्मो कुलोकपतना तदधारिधारी वन्दामहं तमरं वरधम्ममेतं धम्मो यो सब्बपाणिनं शरणं खेममुत्तमं द्वितीयानुसतिष्ठान वन्दामि तं शिरेणहं धम्मस्मि दासीव धम्मो मे सामिकिस्सरो धम्मस्सहं नियादेमि शरीरं जीवितं चिदं वन्दन्तीहं चरिष्यामि धम्मस्येव सुधम्मतं नत्ति मे शरणम् अन्य धम्मो मे शरणं वरम् एतेन सच्चवज्जेन वड्ढेयं सत्तु शासने धम्मं मे वन्दमानाय यं पुण्यं पशुतम् इद सब्बेऽपि अन्तरायामि माहेशुं तस्य तेजसा। हन्दमयं संघानुसतिनयं करोमसि सुपटिपन्नो भगवतो सावकसङ्गो उजुपटिपन्नो भगवतो सावकसङ्गो न्यायपटिपन्नो भगवतो सावकसङ्गो सामीचिपटिपन्नो भगवतो सावकसङ्गो यदिदं चत्तारि पुरुषाणि अष्टपुरुषपुद्गला एष भगवतो सावकसङ्गो आहुनेयोपाहुनेयो दक्षिणेयो अञ्जलिकरणीयो अनुत्तरं पुण्यतीतं लोकसाति। हन्दमयं संगाभिगीतिं करोमसे सधम्मजो सुपटिपत्ति गुणादियुतो यो अष्टविदो अरियपुरसङ्गसेठो शीलादिधम्मपवरा सयकाय चेत्तो वन्दाम्यहं तमरियगणं सुशुद्धं सङ्घो यो सब्बपाणिनं शरणं खेममुत्तमं तदीयानुसतिष्ठानं वन्दामि तं शिरेणहं सङ्घस्सस्मि दासीव सङ्घो मे सामिकेश्वरो सङ्घस्सहं नियादेमि शरीरं जीवितं चिदं वन्दन्तीहं चरिष्यामि सङ्घस्सोपटिपन्नतं नत्ति मे शरणम् अन्य सङ्घो मे शरणं वरम् एतेन सज्जवज्जेन वड्ढेयं सत्तु शासने सङ्घं मे वन्दमानाय यं पुण्यं पशुतम् इद सब्बेऽपि अन्तरायामि माहेशुं तस्य तेजसा।
बुद्ध के प्रथम बोले ना 58 पेज टाइटल भी बोल दे।
हिंदी बुक 58 पेज बुद्ध के प्रथम बोलों की गाथाएं। हंदमयम पठम बुद्ध भासित गाथायो भणामसे। आए हम बुद्ध के प्रथम बोलों की गाथाओं का पाठ करें। अनेक जाति संसारं संधाविस्सं अनिब्बसं गहकारं गवेसन्तो दुःखा जाति पुनः पुनः। अनेक जन्मों तक बिना रुके संसार में दौड़ता रहा, घर शरीर के निर्माता की खोज करते हुए बार बार दुखमय जन्म लेता रहा। गहकारक दिठोसी पुनगे हम न काहसी सब बातें फासुका भंगा गहकूटम विसंखतम विसंघार गतम चित्तम तणहानं कयम अजग्गा। गहकारक मैंने तुझे देख लिया है, अब पुनः घर नहीं बना सकेगा। तेरी सारी कड़ियां भग्न हो गई हैं, घर का शिखर भी टूट गया है। संस्कार विहीन चित्त की तृष्णाएं समाप्त हो गई हैं। नेक्स्ट पेज। अंतिम उपदेश की गाथाएं। हंदमयम पश्चिम ओवाद गाथायो भणामसे। आए हम बुद्ध के अंतिम उपदेश की गाथाओं का पाठ करें। हंददानी भिक्खवे आमंत्रयामि वो। आओ भिक्षुओं, मैं तुम्हें एक बार फिर कहता हूँ। वयम वयधम्मा संकारा। सभी संस्कार संस्कारित वस्तुएं व्यक्ति व्यय धर्मा है। अपमादेन संपादेताति। प्रमाद रहित होकर अपने लक्ष्य को प्राप्त करो। अयम तथागतस्य पश्चिमा वाचा। यह तथागत के अंतिम वचन है। निर्वाण सूक्त का पाठ। हंदमयम निब्बान सूक्त पाठम भणामसि। आए हम निर्वाण सूक्त का पाठ करें। अति भिक्खवे अजातं अभूतं अकतं असंखतं। हे भिक्षुओं, ये अजन्मा, अभूत, अकृत्य, असंस्कृत। नोचेतं भिक्खवे अभविष्य अजातं अभूतं अकतं असंखतं। यदि यह अजन्मा, अभूत, अकृत्य, असंस्कृत न होता। नैदं जातस्य भूतस्य कतस्य संखतस्य निस्सरणं पञ्यायेत। तो इस जन्मे भूत, कृत्य, संस्कृत, संस्कार से मुक्ति असंभव होती। यस्माचो यो भिक्खवे अति अजातं अभूतं अकतं असंखतं। परंतु क्योंकि यह अजन्मा, अभूत, अकृत्य, असंस्कृत है, तस्माजातस्य भूतस्य कतस्य संखतस्य निस्सरणं पञ्यायति। इसलिए इस जन्म में भूत, कृत्य, संस्कृत संसार से मुक्ति संभव है।
Now listen to a question answer session on Anatta with Ajahn Punna Dhamma.
Yeah.
As I've been sitting, I noticed that, I get attached to a thought or attached to a situation. As I was sitting, I look at it, and I don't really see a self, but I don't really feel like I know what I'm looking for either. But my question is, when I get attached to thoughts, or get attached to something in my mind, and I'm clinging to it, is that a manifestation of self?
Yeah, there's some level of identification involved if you've gotten attached to it. That if it obsesses the mind, then there's got to be some point of relationship of the object seeming to be significant in some way. Like, this is interesting, this is important, I've got to play with this. So that presupposes some sense of self, because you're trying to, at some level, you're trying to satisfy or mollify a self position. If things are seen completely detached, just as impersonal objects, they don't tend to stick around or obsess the mind. They just pass, they come and go.
Is that about as close as a person can come to really seeing a self?
Well, you never really see a self, because when you look for it, you don't find it. It's an artificial idea. It doesn't really exist. But we kind of create a conventional self as a kind of a structure, as a container, to make sense, to order experience. It's a kind of mental shorthand to order experience into self and other. And if you look at it, it dissolves. It's not really there. So it's like that Zen story I quoted about searching for the owner of the empty house. The closer you look, the less you see. You try and understand the self, it just dissipates.
Is there a point to trying understanding it?
Yes, you're trying to get beyond that implicit concept, so you can open the mind up. The mind is free. As long as you've got an implicit assumption of self, in some sense you're going to be bound, and you're going to be subject to longings and regrets and worries and fears and so on.
I find it really difficult to break the link between unpleasant and aversion. It seems easier with pleasant for some reason.
Okay.
And partly, I guess, because of the creation of the self around aversion. But I try various things like coming to the body or returning to the breath or investigating the nature of aversion, but they don't feel too successful. So do you have suggestions for how
Yeah, it can be, in many cases, more difficult with painful sensations or unpleasant memories, things that rise to the mind that are of the negative side. The trick is to disidentify with them and just see them as this is unpleasant sensation. And in the end, they're just sensation, and pleasant and unpleasant are categories we impose upon sensation. So a physical pain in the body it's just a physical sensation, and we identify it as painful. As long as there's any sense of trying to escape from it or eradicate it, make it go away, then there's a self-identification involved, because you're trying to free the self from that sensation. The quality of the knowing mind isn't affected by pain or pleasure. It from the point of view of consciousness, they're external. It's something consciousness is aware of pain, but it doesn't itself experience pain. So if you center in the knowing mind, you can see those things as they're just sensations.
I'm confused about, embodiment, about sinking into the body and having an energy. Like, I tried to just identify myself as an object of touch, and that I was going to talk to that little self. That little self is okay. She was just going to be there and go to sleep while I did some work. And so that was just a construct to try to do this. And the work that I find has to do with sort of chi flow and energy. And it seems like the more I let go of the self for moments, the more I receive from the world a flow. So the more I'm sort of taken aback by just the flow of energy through all of us.
Yeah.
So I feel like walking the earth in my body, which is kind of a commitment I have, has caused me, I get a little knocked over sometimes by it, by sort of the flow of it. And so do you see, so I'm setting myself dead center in the senses, particularly in the kinesthetic sense.
Okay.
And so that feels like an entryway to the boundless. At the same time, I'm hearing from you that is a way of being trapped in self.
No, I think that you got to make a distinction between sense experience and sense desire. The Buddha spoke highly of meditation on the body, which is what you're basically doing. If you're walking mindfully and being aware of your connection to the earth and so on, that's a form of body meditation. The experience of the senses is not the same thing as sense desire. Sense desire is that you're allowing the mind to go into that craving of wanting. And that's where the self is built up. If you're looking at the process of walking and the flow of energy as forces, impersonal forces, you're just aware of these factors happening, that's a form of body meditation. It could be very powerful. And it doesn't reinforce itself.
Your life, I mean, we have to, I don't live my life it's separate from, how do you walk, what's the difference between intuition and, I don't know, never mind. This is really hard work. I really appreciate that you have done it for 30 years. And I'm trying to.
Yeah, it's not easy or trivial. There's levels and levels to what's going on, and we've all got to learn to negotiate things. And some of what we're doing today in this workshop, we're working at a very kind of subtle conceptual level. But when you go out into the world and have to deal with jobs and relationships and kids and traffic, and you can't be on a high theoretical level all the time. You can take advantage of this day when we can do that. But then when you have to deal with things on a mundane level, you have to deal with them. But you can be moving towards a sense of freedom in that you have to negotiate those details, but you don't have to believe in them ultimately as ontological or metaphysical reals. That this particular manifestation of samsara that you're you're negotiating right now, and you've got to deal with it. But there's also an internal sense you can keep a certain degree of freedom, of being centered in the clear knowing and letting all this unfold around you, and just have some place to return to that's free and spacious.
I think this kind of falls with what Anne was saying, what you were just saying. To me, it seems like there's very little action that we can create that doesn't first come from a desire.
Yeah.
Follow the precepts comes from a desire.
Yeah.
Non-harming comes from
Okay.
a desire. But to me, the problem seems to fall when we chain react, desire on top of desire.
Yeah.
Or become, okay, feeding my child starts with a desire.
Yes.
Or here's one, stopping the car when a deer runs in front of my car starts with a desire.
Yeah.
And it could be
Yeah.
a desire of survival or a desire of non-harming.
Yeah.
And then just like you were talking about with the flower, then just let it go and let it be. The problem would be then, oh, I'm an expert driver at stopping in front of deer, and now I'm going to go tell everybody. And that's how you're building up.
Oh, yeah,
To me, that's
yeah.
where I'm kind of getting out of today, what I've been
Yeah.
feeling.
Yeah.
There's desire, and then there's
Yeah. Okay.
there's right action, wrong action with desire.
There's a couple of comments I can make about that. One is always a problem in discussing Dhamma. Is always a problem of language, and desire is used in English. It could translate a couple of different words in Pali, and what the desire I've been talking about primarily today is tanha, which is craving, which is craving for sense desires particularly, but also for being and non-being. But there's a broader word in Pali, is chanda, which sometimes you'll see that translated as enthusiasm or zeal, although those are really a more literal translation would be desire, because desire, the English word, is so broad, it covers both categories. And chanda is considered to be neutral, depends on the object. It can be positive. So there's such a thing as Dhamma chanda, which is the desire for Dhamma and the desire for spiritual growth and progress. And that's considered a good thing to have. It's positive, it's spiritual growth. Kama chanda is desire for sense objects, and it's the same as kama tanha. So it's some, people assume because they say desire, when we talk about desire as the root of suffering, they take it in that broader sense, and they say, well, how can you have a desire for practice and the enthusiasm to keep going? But that's actually something that the Buddha said we need to have. You have to have that impulse, desire for liberation. Something else, this is another point I want to make, is slipping my mind now. And another thing, talking about sense desire, that becomes that's somewhat difficult. People have a misapprehension of it, because I think coming from a Western background imbued with ideas out of particularly Protestant Christianity, there's a kind of a Puritanism that creeps in. The sense desires and sense pleasures are not, in Buddhist understanding, are not ethically wrong. A person can live a moral life, keep the precepts, and be generous, and also be a completely devoted sensualist, a hedonist, and be reborn in the heaven realms. What that will not lead to is emergence. It won't lead to transcendence. It won't lead to moving out of samsara. Sense desires will never lead out of samsara. But they're not in themselves. It's not a moral issue. It's an issue of liberation and understanding. They don't lead to wisdom. They keep you trapped in this realm of existence, the sense desire realm, which includes the sense desire heavens. So you can get a fortunate rebirth, without abandoning sense desires, but you can't liberate from samsara. So it's important to kind of put that, just to put that into context. You know?
One thing I noticed in the last exercise was I noticed in reaction to pain, I'd already gone into aversion. So, notice pain, aversion was there. And I also noticed that it's possible to back away from that. So you see the pain, you open up, you can kind of drop the aversion sometimes.
Yeah.
But what I want to clarify is, it seems like you were saying that at later stages on the path, you could actually get to the point where there would be no reaction at all.
Yeah.
But then that seems like, so would that mean, somebody goes to strike me and all I see is unpleasant, I don't flinch, I don't react?
Well, no. So think of the example of the Buddha. When Devadatta sent the mad elephant, Nalagiri, after the Buddha to destroy him, the Buddha used his power of metta to tame the elephant. So he did something to protect himself. The Buddha, in his later years, he suffered from illness and had physical pain, but he had no mental suffering because of it. There was a distinction made that he would take action to avoid the physical pain by going into deep jhana states. He said, he told his disciples, the only time I'm free of pain is when I'm in a state of fourth jhana. So he could, he would deliberately remove himself from that physical sensation. But even when he was experiencing it, he didn't have mental suffering, which is something that, with physical pain, you could notice that is a good way of understanding desire and the creation of a self. Because if you have a physical pain and you are able even briefly to dissociate from it and just see it as an object, then you notice that the suffering is immediately less. The physical sensation is still there, but the mental suffering is less. And a lot of the distress we feel with physical pain is this internal whining and whinging. Why me? This is awful. Why can't this go away? And it multiplies the pain that the physical pain is the karma resultant that we're experiencing that we can't do anything about, but the mental suffering is optional.
This morning I experienced and had numerous times what one teacher described as energetic leaning forward, which is a pretty good phrase. It comes from a relatively subtle feeling of dissatisfaction in the current moment. My body's not relaxed enough, my mind's not at peace or whatever. So I'm going to give up on this moment and I'm going to lean toward the next one, hoping that it will fulfill that desire. One could interpret that as just very rapid little cycles of grasping, becoming, birth, aging, and death. And I'm wondering if that's a useful way to conceptually work with that feeling, or if there's a better way.
Yeah, you could see that as a little miniature dependent origination happening, that your desire to come into being in a different form. The current form is not satisfactory in some way, so you're seeking a new rebirth in a new form in the next moment, and see how that's driven by desire, and that if you abandon that desire, you you cease that process of becoming.
Been struck with how pervasive really the sense of self is, and how much energy the mind devotes toward sustaining it, protecting it, increasing it. You know, I think really looking at it is almost seeing, like, at least at a certain point, it's almost like a shadow that follows you. You could jump as high as you want, but the shadow will follow. And also, that includes effort, you know, in effort on the spiritual path.
And it's all that energy that's being used to maintain and nourish and protect the self. If you abandon the idea of self, then all that energy is freed up. So it's a very constricting concept. You know, it's a waste. It takes energy to maintain it, right? So you release that, you become literally liberated.
So it's not, you know, at a certain point, it's not as a matter of getting rid of something, but it's a matter of seeing the freedom.
It's a question of stopping to, stop doing that. Stop making a self. It's something you're doing, and it's not like you need to make an effort to get rid of it. It's just you just have to stop creating it, and it won't be there anymore.
I'd like to follow up on your thought, because that occurred to me too, how pervasive this sense of self is, and reflecting on the religious upbringing that I had. A sense of self is, it seems to me, a moral imperative, and abandoning that self, I still have this sense that I'm doing something wrong. I'm doing something that is not acceptable to God, and it is a very, it has a very tight grip, these things that we learn in our childhoods. And reflecting on that had some liberation.
You can read some of the Christian mystics. They get beyond the sense of self.
What's the relationship between point of view and self? Because if I can let go of greed and let go of sort of a selfish worldview, I'm still looking at I'm still located in a place in time and a place in my body. So I will have a point of view, even if I don't take it personally.
Yes, quite so. And that's the subtlest level of self that I'm going to try and talk about in the third session.
I was noticing when I was doing the alert, I'd say, well, I'm feeling cold, so I thought, well, is that a desire? It's trivial because I can do something about it or not, so I didn't get any issue about it or craving or anything about it, so I didn't put my coat on. But I'm thinking about the body has, my body can feel hungry, and I can eat or not eat, and that's also trivial kind of, and it didn't take any self to do that, it didn't seem like. But what I was thinking of, the context I'm often thinking of is, like you said, this desire for liberation. Well, that's built into us, or came from somewhere, past life or somewhere. So that's a desire of some kind.
it doesn't have any self to it either, much.
Yeah. Well, those kind of simple bodily desires, like you want to be warm, so you put a coat on. There is a difference. But I mean, an arahant would do that. An enlightened being, a Buddha, would, if he feels cold, he'd put an extra cloth on. That's not necessarily the kind of desire that leads to becoming. You recognize, there's this unpleasant sensation that means there's some dysfunction with the body. It needs food. You could feel hungry. It needs food. So it's something I have to deal with. That's different from then that arising to greedy sensations, greedy sense, desire, thought in the mind. Oh, I really want this special food that, this, triple cheese pizza or something. And you get this, the mind is caught in sense desire rather than the practical recognition of there's something needs to be done. So I don't think that, that level of desire of recognizing that something needs to be done is that, I don't think that's that doesn't need to become an impulse for self-creation. That's just for practical action, but it becomes the creation of a self if it emerges into craving and clinging. Then there's this whole proliferation into a project.
Well, I mean, that's what we evolved. I kind of got through that, and then I evolved to this like desire for liberation. Well, part of that then is like my constant languaging mechanism going on, but it's trying to figure out what's going on. Because if I have this desire for liberation, I need to figure out how to do it, or what's going on in this world, or stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that kind of a self, I don't think that's a self in the normal sense of, it's appropriate for me.
No, well, it's definitely not sense desire. It's not motivated by sense desire. But these kind of spiritual aspirations are also tricky because they can merge over into a more subtle defilement as well. It can be like the desire for becoming, and if there's a desire for liberation, for awakening, to be free, but that can be corrupted into the desire to be an arahant. You see, you want to be, because if I'm an arahant, everyone will love me and will put me on a pedestal.
I hope it's okay. I have a cosmological question.
Okay.
When you were talking about when consciousness is reborn after death, the seed of the father, the egg of the mother, and consciousness all kind of come together in that moment, and and I know that kind of the separation of materiality and mentality. So I'm wondering, like just in my own experience, I feel like I not only kind of have imbibed physical characteristics of my parents, but also mental patterns and proclivities.
Yes,
and
yes.
I'm just wondering if there's a sort of view about that relationship.
Well, I think that the way I would explain that is twofold. First of all, when your consciousness is seeking a womb to be reborn in, it went to someplace that's resonant to its level of development and its tendencies, proclivities already. So it found a suitable family just by natural gravitation. And then there's also the cultural factor of you're being raised by the parents, and in your early formative years, you're immersed in their psyches, dominated by their psyches. And so that helped whatever plasticity there was in the being is molded in the early days as well.
question about language. It seems like we frequently refer to like the words I, me, and mine, and things like that. And does that kind of contribute towards the whole problem of creating a sense of self by the way that we use words?
It can. The Buddha said use conventional speech, but don't be fooled by it. I have seen occasionally letters or emails from people who are trying to be very good Buddhists and avoid using personal pronouns, and it ends up sounding really silly. You have to use these conventions of speech, but they recognizing they don't represent a metaphysical reality. And there is a social convention around things like me and mine. It's a necessary social convention. You know, if you've got a car, that's yours, and it's not ultimately metaphysically yours, but it socially as a convention, it's yours, and nobody else can use it without your permission, and that's necessary for the ordering of society, that we make it clear whose property is which. And it's important to keep the levels separate in your mind. Like, this is a conventional reality, and it has an application, it has a function, but it's not ultimately real. One of the suttas, the Buddha talks about not self. He talks about how you can't say that the body is ultimately yours, because whatever is yours you have complete control of, and you can't will the body to be younger or healthier or slimmer or taller. You know, you can't do that. The same like with your car, you can't wish that it would have better gas mileage, or that the damn carburetor would be fixed or whatever.
But you can know your body like you know your mind.
Yeah.
You can know it.
Yes, yeah.
I have another question about language. The terminology of grasping and clinging worked really well and intuitively for me when the feeling was positive. But when the feeling was negative and I want to escape that feeling, craving and clinging seem to be kind of clumsy. I heard one teacher say, well, at least you've got to grasp something, an alternative translation for Tana. You've got to grasp something to push it away, but that seems clumsy too. Have you got a way to work with that so it's more intuitive while you're actually working?
I wouldn't say grasping, maybe pushing, because grasping is bringing towards, and pushing away, right, is the opposite. And then clinging could be either eradicating or eliminating. It's when pushing away isn't good enough, when you want to absolutely escape and eliminate the undesired.
Do those words make sense with the Pali and the way it's described?
Not really, not directly, because the exposition of the dependent origination is given entirely in terms of a desired object.
Just intuitively, it seems like the averse of experience is already filled with self.
Yeah.
I don't have the knowledge about the language, but it just seems like at that point, the experience feels full of self.
Yeah, it is, but negative feeling, dukkha vedana is not.
Yeah.
You know, it's the same as
Just
pleasant feeling, it's the negative side of,
unpleasantness.
Yeah,
So
you
that's
have-
different.
yeah, but then the aversive feeling that arises after, that's already the beginning of a self, yeah.
What's the relationship between mind intent and the unconditioned?
Unconditioned is nibbana. It's outside of the whole process altogether.
But then is mind intent willing something that is self? Like you think you can get so aware of what you're doing that you can be only creating like your mind can be so intent on it, but isn't that an implication that you're trying to control something that's uncontrollable, so that it itself causes, like, have the best intention
Yeah, well, this is like somebody else asked a question about spiritual aspiration. You know, it can easily get corrupted. This is something to watch out for. It's kind of higher level defilement. Is that spiritual aspiration can be corrupted into a kind of spiritual greediness. You know, you want certain experiences, or you want to attain certain states. Jenny, go ahead.
Yeah, just when we were doing the whole thing about aversion and working with that, kind of how when I'm processing it in my head, trying to figure out if it's aversion or if it's just unpleasant.
Yeah.
What I look for is, do I want it to be different than it is?
Yeah, yeah.
You know, if it's just unpleasant, it just is.
Yeah.
And if it's aversion, then I want it to be something different, and it's that pushing away that you were talking about. Is that kind of a...
Yeah, I think that's a good touchstone. Yeah. The unpleasant sensation is just unpleasant sensation, but then the mind goes into not wanting it to be like that. And then that's a kind of wanting that then leads on to becoming, the creation of a self.
Because a lot of it, when I was watching the becoming process, I would notice then how uncomfortable it was once I started becoming.
Yeah.
I go, oh, that's unpleasant, and then the becoming would disappear.
Yeah.
You know, because the power of it was gone.
Well, I was thinking about that when I was walking again at lunch, deciding to do this or do that. Where did that come from? Some kind of self, or I just thought, well, my multidimensional processor says this is a good thing to do, or something, and then I should say aversion. Well, let's say I'm on some path of wherever it is in the stream or whatever. Some things just aren't appropriate for that, and I don't know that there's any self has to figure that out or have a self-image or idea to just say, well, that's just not something I want to do.
Yeah.
Is there a language for that? I mean, you're directly not having a self, you just know what the hell to do. You know?
Yeah. I'm not really sure I'm not really sure I understand what you're getting at.
Well, I'm thinking in my context of how does one's, say, beginning the stream, how's that recorded in the incarnation rebirth process? Somehow we get that from the future lives or 7 future lives or whatever. We're carrying that process through that we got in one life. And something is appropriate for that setup that we've got our good karma, whatever it is. Say we're just going with that hasn't got these kind of personality cells and stuff associated. It's just it's another level of process.
Right.
We have to tune to, I guess. So part of this personality wants to go with this good karma we got.
Yeah.
So I'm just thinking, what's the language for that? I mean, it seems like that's a thing that people are doing. I'm doing. I don't know why I'm doing certain things. I just see that that's better than something else.
Yeah. Okay. Process. Yeah. Well, there is a process of cause and effect, a continuity of karma, and there's results you're experiencing in this life that were determined long ago by previous karmas you've made, and you're unfolding and playing them out I like the analogy of like playing cards. You've got a hand of cards dealt to you, you know. Playing poker or bridge, some game that has a mix of skill and luck. You know, you're dealt a hand of cards, and that comes from your past karma. There's nothing you can do about that, but that's what you've got to play with. And then your new karma that you're making is how skillfully you play that hand. But you're all limited to what the cards you've got, but then you can play them more or less skillfully, and gradually build up. And how that's a little bit different than card playing is where the analogy breaks down is that if you play them skillfully, that will ensure you get a better hand dealt you the next time.
I have a question. Can you please speak about being socially engaged but not like allowing the self to perpetuate in that arena? Yeah,
that's another tricky path to negotiate. Being socially engaged but not identified to a self position. Yeah, that's something that takes a lot of skill to negotiate. It's very, very karmically wholesome, positive to do, to be involved in your community and your society. The Buddha encouraged people to be active in their community, but you have to be very careful you don't allow that to become a point of ego attachment. It's another way you can identify yourself, as you can create a self around me as the social crusader or me as the helper or the reformer, and create another self around that, and that'll cause suffering. You'll experience suffering because you'll endlessly be knocking up against resistance and reality. But if you're acting completely from a selfless position of compassion and just trying to help and do the best, improve things as best you can, then you're just making positive karma. But it's difficult not to identify and become caught.
I can understand, or I can grasp how the karma of my ancestors lies in me. I have had the experience of learning history and realizing, wow, I behave as if that happened to me. So I've seen that, but the idea that something I or another child or another person did in another life, it's hard for me to believe that somebody would be born into an abusive family because of something their karma did.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of like you want to see some kind of you want to see some sort of fairness or in the deal, but it's not. It's best to look at karma as just as an impersonal process. It's not like there's somebody trying to make it all fair and work out. It's cause and effect. So whatever karma beings are experiencing, that's karma they've made themselves. We create our own existence. And it's also another consideration is it's more important to look forward than backward. There's nothing you can do about, you take the case of somebody born into an abusive family. There's nothing you can do about their past. That's done and gone. Whatever karma they did to get there, that's done and gone. That can't be helped. But now you can, moving forward, you can try and make good karma by ending the abuse. It's not skillful to then use that as a justification, say, well, they did something bad in their past life, so they deserve it, leave them alone. Now that's not a skillful reaction to the situation.
Do you believe in innocence? Like, is that?
No, I don't.
You don't?
I don't believe there's any ultimate innocence. Everybody comes from the past. They've done stuff in the past. So.
There'd have to be a self that was innocent.
Yeah.
It's hard not to believe in innocence when you look at a baby. Me too, it's really easy.
I don't know about that. I mean, it's just that they haven't got the physical capability to do any damage yet. But wait till they get to be 2 and see if you still believe in innocence.
As someone who grew up in an as an abused child, we can often make the mistake of thinking that it's distinguishing good and bad.
Yeah.
Because you can look at it as bad, but there's been a lot of lessons that have shaped my life and guided my life because of it. So to take away the good and the bad can help understand that a little more.
Yeah. That's a good observation that you learn from experience, or even painful experiences. They're educators.
And because of that past, I do believe that I have the ability to do more good because of what I've learned. So I don't look at it as bad karma. It's learned karma. It's a teaching tool. But just karma.
I have a question, just a quick one. Does our memory or knowledge that we learn this life get carried to the next one, or to be?
Generally not in an explicit way, and there's traces remain. And I think it's actually fairly common for people to have bits and pieces of past life memory come up in dreams and so on. But it's pretty rare for really well-formed memories to carry over. Usually it's the process of death and in between and birth are so traumatic that the memory is wiped clear. It's all, you get confused and lost.
So is that still true for those who has who has reached the first stage of enlightenment? How does that person know that? Oh yeah, I reached that. That's a difficult question. There's different schools of thought about that.
Some people say that a stream winner, if he dies, he's still a stream winner, hasn't gone any further. Then in his next life, he begins almost right away he just carries on as a stream winner. But another view is that he doesn't, but his karma is such that very, very early in his life he'll encounter the Dharma, he'll start practicing again, and he'll attain to stream entry very easily, but just like in his first meditation retreat in the first few days, just happen spontaneously. That seems to me somehow more realistic conception, but I don't know. That's an open question. But the idea is that they're at the moment of stream entry, there's a permanent change in the psyche, and there's no falling back from it. There's no going back. So something carries on over to the next life.
So I guess it wouldn't be in the form of memory and knowledge.
No, not really. The process of birth is still enough to kind of confuse the mind and lose the thread. If someone's born as a Dewa, they experience spontaneous birth. They don't have gestation or birth like physical. They just appear in that realm. And they generally retain the memory of their immediately past life.
Again, people may not know what Dewa is.
Yeah.
Devas are the sensual gods, the gods that live in the sensual heavens, that are still attached to sensuality.
And you said, this is more of a comment than a question, but I just think it's one of the most interesting things that that word sukha is etymologically connected to sugar. It's what a primal
Yeah.
it is, you know?
I hadn't thought of that, but yeah, that's pretty good.
I want to go back to what you said about karma and being born into what you need to be responsible for, even though you're a baby. And I can see how a Buddha sitting under a tree and noticing, I can really relate to a really focused individual who's really curious about the mind, spending time and figuring some things out that he learned through experience. But when you say that a Buddhist believes that, this is how the afterlife works, part of me goes, well, nobody. I mean, I guess you could say the Buddha traveled, but we don't really know. That's not something, it's a belief.
Yeah.
But what I hear is the belief in that causes a certain kind of behavior.
Yeah.
So even if a person is not did nothing to earn what they were served up by this world, it's better for them to take responsibility because they won't feel like they're a victim. And if you feel like you're a victim, it's harder to help yourself.
Yeah, that's a good thought. The Buddha actually said something close to that. He said whether you believe in rebirth and karma or not, you're better off acting as if you did. Because it's kind of like in Western philosophy. There's something called Pascal's wager. Have you heard of that? Blaise Pascal made the argument that whether there's a God or not, you're better off acting as if there were, because if there's not, you haven't lost anything. But if there is, and you act as if there's not, you'd be very sorry when you die. And this is the same, almost parallel argument the Buddha made. Like if there's no rebirth and karma, what do you got to lose? When you die, you're gone. But if there is such a thing, and you've lived heedlessly imagining there's no result, then you're going to get a bad result. So you might as well act as if there is result of karma.
I've had some discomfort with the concept of preciousness of the human birth.
Yeah.
I see it as precious from the standpoint of it's a realm where we have the conditions to work with this and.
Yes.
But the preciousness based on probability of where one will come out doesn't make sense when you're also looking at the flow of karma. So it seems like when you have gotten to the point where you are in the human realm, you got there because of the conditions that brought you to that.
Yes.
So it just sees bogus to pull statistics in.
I'm not sure I follow the argument.
Well, the argument will look at all of the beings. How many ants are there on the planet?
Yeah. Humans are only a tiny fraction of all total beings.
All total beings. So. But the fact that everyone, I assume, in this room, in this conversation, is human, got here by the conditions that led them into this particular existence.
Yes.
So at the time of birth, there wasn't well, let's randomly decide if this is going to be a being that's an ant or a human.
Right, but then, but there's so many beings that aren't human, and there's only a few that have managed to gain the prerequisites to become human, and then of all the beings that are human, many of them lead heedless lives that won't get them back to the human realm and fall away. So it's like a precarious foothold you've got at this existence, and it's easy to slip off the slope and fall into the lower realms.
Okay.
So there is, that's, the preciousness of human rebirth. Okay, I'm here now. I've earned this by my past karma. It wasn't easy to get here, and here I am. And I better not blow it and just waste this whole life and then fall back into the lower realms.
Okay, but it is a karmic process, not a probability.
No.
Okay.
No, it's not just random. It's not like a lottery.
That's that's the part that always kind of rubs me wrong.
Yeah, no.
How does a person know if they've completed the stream entry?
How, if they've completed what?
How do you know, like, how does someone know if they've passed through the various stages?
The best way is a careful examination of the mind to look for the fetters that should be overcome at that stage. So if one thinks, oh, maybe I'm a stream enterer, maybe you are, maybe you aren't. You have to, and nobody who's outside can tell you definitively unless they're very advanced and have psychic powers. No one can tell you. They might be able to tell you you're not. There's certain signs that you're not. But if you actually are, they can't be certain. But you can examine your own mind not just once or twice, but over a long period of time and methodically and carefully for the presence of the fetters. And if you see any of those fetters arise, then you're not a stream enterer, because those fetters should be eradicated. Right? So likewise for the higher stages, like for it's a little bit tricky. I've heard it said it's very hard to diagnose Sakadagami because it attenuates those fetters. It doesn't eliminate them. But Anagami should have eliminated sense desire and ill will altogether. So if you see someone claiming to be an Anagami or an Arhat and they show any sign of sense desire or ill will, then you can write them off. And if you think you're at that stage, you examine your own mind, and if you notice any trace of sense desire left, that means you're not at that stage.
I have a question. When I hear about all these kind of stages, and then for a while, and then I start to think maybe those stages are not that important, because you don't just work like one of the 10 fetters, 2 stages, because they all appear sometimes, they don't randomly, they all come to you.
Yes.
Because it feel like when you talk about stages, it's assumed that you work with, okay, I'm going to work with 3 of them first.
Yeah. Okay.
But
yeah, I see.
And then it seems to have it can tend to it gives you the practitioner, okay, I'm reached it, maybe what's my next goal, like you said on Friday. But would it be more helpful if the teacher not tell you what stages you reached, here you only have 1 stage to reach?
Yeah.
If you see some traces of defilement, that still work. That you need to work on.
Yeah, that's true. That's a very good observation, and that's a problem with schemes and maps, that you can get overly literal and overly stuck in a kind of formulaic thing. It's better to take it as a guideline, and as you say, you should be working on all the fetters, at all the time. It would be really unskillful to say, well, until I'm a stream enterer, I don't have to worry about sense, desire, and ill will. I can just go for it. You're weakening all the fetters, and as you go. But these are signposts along the way that you've made a certain degree of progress. And talking, there's two kind of ways of looking at these stages, either from this, which are, in a way is the more practical approach, is to look at the 10 fetters and see, how the fetters are being weakened or eradicated. But the other way is the experiential experience of subsequently deeper entries into the unconditioned. That's what the 4 stages are. There's an actual moment that's described in the Abhidhamma that's the path and fruit of stream entry. It's like a quantum step. It's this, at this moment you're not, and this moment you are. And there's the experience, because it's the mind enters into nibbana for a moment. The unconditioned is known. It's described in the Abhidhamma as in terms of the 8 path factors. The path has two levels. There's mundane path and supramundane. And the path factors in the Eightfold Path ordinarily is the ordinary interpretation is the mundane path that we follow most of the time, that gets us to the transcendental path. And that occurs for a moment before the fruition, when the 8 path factors come together perfectly at this level of transcendence. Ajahn Lee has talked about that somewhat in one of his books. He makes a very interesting point. He says, he gives an example for understanding this. He says the path factor of right livelihood, which seems entirely mundane. It's hard to imagine how that could be transcendental. But he says that livelihood is defined as how you feed yourself, how you maintain nutriment in the world. At the transcendental level, you're feeding on nibbana. So all the path factors in one way or the other align to nibbana at the transcendental level. And they come together, it's like click, and then there's the fruit, path and fruit, maggapala. And then this nibbana is experienced, and that's stream entry, and the being is changed forever in the depth. And the result of that is eradication of the 3 fetters. And that's easy to understand conceptually in the case of stream entry, because they're all concept related. So self-view and skeptical doubt is eliminated because you've seen the unconditioned. So how can you have any doubt anymore? It's gone. You're certain.
This talk, like all programs
जोर करिए ना थोड़ा, बार-बार चले जाएंगे.
We'll do practice of Brahma Viharas. पहले मैत्री ब्रह्म विहार, अपने प्रति, अपने प्रियजनों के प्रति, हमारे आरक्षण करने वाले देवताओं के प्रति, और फिर सभी प्राणियों के प्रति, इसी सीक्वेंस में. We'll just chant straight. Angaviromi, avyapajomi, anigomi, sukhi attanam pariharami, mama mata pitu acharya cha, nati mitta cha, sa brahmacharino cha, avirahontu, avyapajahontu, anigahontu, sukhi attanam pariharantu. Arakha devata, umattha devata, rukkatha devata, आकाशट्ठा देवता अवेरा होन्तु अव्यापज्जा होन्तु अनीगा होन्तु सुखी अत्तानं परिहरन्तु सब्बे सत्ता सब्बे पाणा सब्बे भूता सब्बे पुंगला सब्बे अत्ता भाव पर्यापन्ना सब्बा इत्यो सब्बे पुरुषा सब्बे अरिया सब्बे अनरिया सब्बे देवा सब्बे मनुष्या सब्बे विनिपातिका अवेरा होन्तु अव्यापज्जा होन्तु अनीगा होन्तु सुखी अत्तानं परिहरन्तु। अब करुणा ब्रह्म विहार। समय समस्त संसार में करुणा की अत्यंत आवश्यकता। उत्तरोत्तर परेशानियां बढ़ती जा रही हैं हमारे शहर में, हमारे देश में, पूर्व पश्चिम उत्तर दक्षिण कहीं भी चले जाइए, चारों तरफ बीमारों की संख्या, मृतकों की संख्या बढ़ती जा रही है। दुख की अतिरेक सबको याद करके मन में करुणा जागती है, इच्छा जागती है कि हम इन सब के दुख दूर हों। सारे कष्ट सबके दूर हों, रोग मुक्त हों, कोई बाधा ना आए उनकी रोग मुक्ति में, सभी स्वस्थ और निरोग हों शीघ्र अतिशीघ्र। जो भी निरोग होने के लिए आवश्यकताएं हैं, दवाई उपकरण सब उपलब्ध हों, ऐसी शुभकामना करते हैं। सवितियो विवज्जन्तु शोको रोगो विनश्यतु माते भवतु अन्तरायो सुखी दीर्घायुः भवतु सुखी दीर्घायुको भव सुखी दीर्घायुको भव। और कृतज्ञता ज्ञापन, आभार उन सबका जो लोगों के दुख दूर करने में, अनेक प्रकार के दुख दूर करने में लगे हुए हैं, दिन और रात की चिंता न कर कर, अपने सुरक्षा की चिंता न करे हुए सेवा में लगे हुए हैं। उन सब के प्रति आभार, सबकी सुरक्षा की कामना। आए हम सब अपने पुण्य उनके साथ साझा करें। जो भी पुण्य मैंने आज किए हैं, आज से पहले किए हैं, उन सब में अनंत प्राणी भागीदार हो। पुण्यस्यैदानि याना अन्यानि कथानि मे ते सञ्च भागिनोऽन्तु सत्तानन्तपमानिका। मुदिता ब्रह्म विहार। जो लोग स्वस्थ हो रहे हैं, जिनके भी घर में खुशियाँ हैं, वातावरण स्वच्छ हो रहा है, पशु पक्षी प्रसन्न दिखते हैं, उन सब की प्रसन्नता में भागीदार होते हुए शुभेच्छा कि ये सुख संपत्ति बनी रहे। यथा लब्धा सम्पत्तितो मा गच्छन्तु। अंत में उपेक्षा ब्रह्म विहार, सर्वश्रेष्ठ ब्रह्म विहार, जो आवश्यक है कि हम व्यथा में करुणा से व्यथा ना आ जागे, दुख को देख के बेचैनी ना हो, दुख के अपरेंट कॉजेस को देख के गुस्सा ना आए, उनका भुला न चाहें, बुरा ना चाहें। क्योंकि भासमान सत्य भी अपनी जगह है, सब दिखता है कौन लोग इस महामारी के जनक हैं और कौन लोग इसको बढ़ाने में अपनी अज्ञानता से कंट्रीब्यूट कर रहे हैं। उन सब के प्रति भी चित्त समाहित रहे, चित्त शांत रहे, द्वेष न जागे। सबको अपने अपने कर्मों का फल मिलना है। प्रकृति के नियमों पे सब छोड़ दें और ये समझें कि हमें भी जो परेशानियां हो रही हैं अपने कर्मों के फल के हिसाब से हो रही हैं। ऐसा अभी अजान ने इतने प्रश्नों के उत्तर में समझाया कि जो भी सिचुएशन हम फेस कर रहे हैं वो हमारा विपाक चित्त है। तो भगवान की आनी को याद करें। यम कम्मं करिष्यन्ति कल्याणं वा पापकं वा तस्य दायादा भविष्यन्ति। हम सबका चित्त शांत रहे। सभी लोगों का जो दुखी हैं, बीमार हैं, बेचैन हैं, भय से, आशंका से दुखी हैं, सबका मन शांत रहे, ऐसी शुभकामना करते हैं। क्योंकि यही सबसे उत्तम मंगल बताया भगवान ने। तिष्ठस्य लोक धम्मे हि उट्टस्य लोक धम्मे हि चित्तं यस्य न कंपति अशोकं विरजं खेमं एतं मंगलमुत्तमम्। हम सभी साधक होने से नाते हमारा कर्तव्य बनता है कि इस बात को हमेशा चित्त में याद रखें, सब सजग रहें इस बारे में। जब भी चित्त डोलने लगे भगवान की वाणी याद करके समता में आए, तभी हमारी वाणी, हमारे कर्म संयमित हो पाएंगे। सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः, सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः, सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा किञ्चित् पापमागमः, मा किञ्चित् शोकमागमः, मा किञ्चित् दुःखमागमः। भवतु सर्वमङ्गलं, रक्षन्तु सर्वदेवता, सर्वबुद्धानुभावेन सदा सुखी भवन्तु ते। भवतु सर्वमङ्गलं, रक्षन्तु सर्वदेवता, सर्वधर्मानुभावेन सदा सुखी भवन्तु ते। भवतु सर्वमङ्गलं, रक्षन्तु सर्वदेवता, सर्वसङ्घानुभावेन सदा सुखी भवन्तु ते। अरहं सम्मा सम्बुद्धो भगवा बुद्धं भगवन्तम् अभिवादयामि। स्वागतो भगवता धम्मो धम्मं नमस्सामि।
सुपटिपन्नो
भगवतो सावक संगो संगं नमामि